Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit, and always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Here we go. It's March. We're getting closer to the holidays again. I know there are distant memories right now, but it's coming up. So I'm just giving you a fair warning. Don't say I didn't warn you. I want to thank my sponsors for bringing this episode. I'm really excited about some of the episodes coming up, and they are making it possible for you. So please support them. Health Code, Get Health, GETHLTH.com, Great Vanilla Shakes, and Chocolate Macadamia. And they have tons of other ones, like you can add in peppermint to make a little peppermint shake to remember the holidays again, or whatever you want to do. They have tons of recipes on their website, so go check them out. Really honored to be sponsored by them. And of course, Keto Mojo, my go-to for checking ketones and glucose levels, double checking the continuous glucose monitors that could be off. And again, I would recommend going to their website. They have tons of resources, old talks, keto talks and metabolic health talks, and they're doing a lot for the community, and they really, really do give back. So enjoy this episode, and please give my sponsors a shot if you haven't already. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. Today I have a special guest, Kathy Bowers. She does counseling with families and kids and helping us to get our act together so that we can help our kids. And so Kathy, welcome. It's so great to have you. Thanks for reaching out. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thank you, Brian. Actually, can I just say that it's not counseling I do, it's coaching, which is very different.
All right. Well, I'll count it both. Yeah. I mean, I
okay.
kind of consider them to some degree equal, but really coaching, like health coaching and like family coaching to help you
coaching.
Get skills that you need to help with raising kids and kind of learning more about
improve
yourself.
Your communication.
And how did you get into this field? What's your background that brought you to doing counseling?
Over 40 years, starting off at 16, there's a nursery nurse working in schools and nurseries. And then over time, I progressed into social care for 20 years, where I went as a family support practitioner and a senior family support worker, direct work in the homes to help parents look at their problems, look at their issues they were having within themselves, and also how this was impacting on family life. And then looking at parenting issues, behaviour issues, and, trying to get them to turn things around for them. And they were very entrenched families, so they didn't all succeeded. And unfortunately, quite a few had their children removed. And it wasn't the first time. This was like a pattern that had been repeating itself, but with another child. And then I trained as a performance coach 2018. And I thought, rather than me giving them advice and them looking for me for all the answers, I use the coaching to say, okay, now the ball's in your court. You've got 100% responsibility, as it's your life and your kids. So only you can make those changes. And although they didn't like it at first, because it was an easy cop-out if I did it for them, I said, well, it only works if you agree, and you don't always agree. So that's why you're not really succeeding. So if you do it this way, let's see how it goes. And a good 70% make changes, which was absolutely brilliant. But I'd become disillusioned over time, because when I first started, I could work with families that's, depending on their problem, it could be 3 months, 6 months, or up to a year, Then all of a sudden I was told, no, every family only gets you for 6 weeks and that's it. And I thought, well, that's not going to, fix anything. So the disillusion kept on, I kept on seeing changes and it wasn't for the better. So after about 6 years of thinking, no, I don't want this, I then decided to do my coaching, which is a nicer way because the parents have tried things and they're still a bit stuck. They want to improve their relationships with their kids. They want to find a better way to communicate with their children and also make changes for themselves. So they own it all. It's their full responsibility. So the outcome is, it's what they put in, what they get. They can achieve that goal. So I just love it. I feel like it's now my vocation. It's taken me all that time to get here, but I've eventually got to where I want to be.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think when you start seeing the systems broken, from my background, I was in general internal medicine for 18 years. And I realized, having 8 to 12, 15 minutes with a patient, you can't address these root cause things because if they're having struggles at home with their spouse, with their kids, work stress and all, if we can't address those things, like, throwing a pill at all these different problems doesn't really help. And to
No.
say in 6 weeks you're going to reform a family and get them on the right track is really, it's impossible to do. And so, that's something, having this long-term longevity of connection with that family and coaching them and getting them back on track when they start slipping off track, because you can't just think you're going to learn something and then all of a sudden you just fly on your own.
No, and I'm also a holistic therapist and Reiki practitioner. So I've always used that with my families because my families used to say, whenever they used to love me coming around, because they said, I just chill when you come in that room, Kathy. I just sort of relax, And my colleagues were saying, how come you're not stressed? And I said, it must be because I've been doing, massage and Reiki for years and years and years. So it's part of my psyche. And I'm a great believer that, okay, we've got a problem here, but that's not what you try and sort out. You have to work backwards to see how that happened. And that means looking at the whole person, the whole family, the whole individuals to see, first of all, with the parents, what's going on for you? What's happening at this moment in time that's been stopping you from completely relating to your children? And it's always to do with stress and pressure. And nowadays it's so much. You've got the work, you've got the financial pressure, you've got so many things. And then you might have difficulty in your relationships, or you might have, it could be depression, or it could be something from your childhood that you're carrying. So there's so many different aspects that we look into first.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think the other thing I would say in talking to you is, if people are on the system and the judge says, now you got to meet with this counselor, you got to meet with this coaching staff, sometimes these are hostages, people who don't really want to like make these changes. They're kind of forced on. When someone reaches out to you and says, look, my family's kind of falling apart, I need help, I need some coaching to help have the skills in order to keep my family healthy or to help them get back healthy, because it's a lot easier to have it when you're healthy before things become a total train wreck. In medicine, we don't wait till you need a bypass surgery. We say, oh, okay, let's intervene before that.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to fix that problem once you get these entrenched personality traits and poor coping mechanisms that, it's hard to make those changes, it sounds like.
And that's what was hard when I worked for social care, because the parents were actually threatened. I mean, it was really bad. I came along as an introduction and they were threatened. You have to have Kathy, she's your last resort. And I just looked and I went, right, first of all, you don't need to have me. We're not a statutory support group or anything. So if you want to work with me, that would be wonderful, but we have to have trust. You have to work with me and I work with you and support you. Yes, I will share information on a daily basis back. So, it's all sort of transparent, but you can also decline me if you don't want me there.
Yeah, and so in your experience of all these years, what do you think are the biggest
Excuse me.
problems or things that would confound family relationships? Is it substance abuse? Is it people just not engaging? What do you think are the low-hanging fruit that we could really intervene on?
Well, the first thing is people not talking to each other and communicating, not being aware of what's going in the family. Yes, we've got substance abuse, we've got alcohol, we've got all sorts of things going on, but we have to start first in looking with the parents first to see what's happening for them at this moment in time. So like I was saying, it could be stress at work. You could be having so much, not everybody enjoys their job. We go there to earn money to pay for the bills and have a holiday if we're lucky, and, you know, treat ourselves to a few things. So, you know, if you've got a boss that is bullying you, which I came across so many times in the situation where I was working, I wasn't bullied because I stood up for myself, but lots of my colleagues were bullied and they actually left rather than confront, you know. And then you've got, if you're doing a job and the boss sees you're managing, they'll dump more stuff on you. I mean, they were trying to do this with me because, you know, I was experienced with what I was doing, and I just put my hand up and said, no, I'm doing these families. This is what I'm doing. When I finish the time with them, I'll take some more on. But other than that, you can forget it. And they just went, what? I said, well, I'm just telling you, because I said, I can't, if you start loading me with stuff, I won't be able to do a good job with the families I've got, you know, and that's all I want to do. So let me deal with, say, 20, 25 families. And once I've finished one, I'll take another one. And that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that, because you in medicine is the same way. So doctors, if
Yeah,
you have 400 patients, you could take good care of them. But if you have 2,500, 3,000 patients, you
come
just can't do that well of a job. And so doctors are now in the system here in
burning
the
out.
US, they're burning out because they're saying, look, I'm
Yeah,
seeing 50 patients a day and I'm not helping anyone anymore. And so when you say, look, I'm going to limit my patient loads and I'm going to focus on them and help, even though it makes your
yeah.
bosses crazy because there's such a need, is that's how you're going to be the most effective.
And I said to them, right, the doors, there's always going to be some queue behind that door. So it's not going to make any difference. You know, you're going to open that door and people are going to flood in. So I'll dictate how I can do it. But also, I'm not taking work home. Because my contract, first of all, says I don't work in the evenings. I don't work on the weekends. So I'm not starting that unhealthy life practice. So I said, so if you want me to be really specific, I will say I'll work to my contract. And they went, oh. And then, so they stopped trying to push things on me. They just, and I said, and ask me, when you ask me something nice, you know, and you never reward, you complain and do things, but you never say to your staff, you're doing so well, we appreciate all your hard work. And it's that, you know, if parents are stressed, they're taking that work home because they don't feel that they think they're going to get tripped up at work if they can't do their job, which, and therefore it's a stress load all the time, all the time, all the time. And they come back, they're not sleeping, they're irritable, they're arguing with their spouse, they're not paying attention to their kid, you know, and it's just a really unbalanced situation.
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring that up, because that's so important, because a lot of us are type A, we're hard workers. We want to prove ourselves. We want to be, well respected in our career paths. And I think sometimes what happens, especially in medicine, I talk to a lot of doctors and the burnout rate is, like you said, through the roof. At least 60% of doctors are burned out based on current stats. And it's probably even way higher than that. And part of it's that, as a matter of fact, one of my partners who I'm connecting with here in Arizona, her where she's working now, they say, oh, you can't have a picture of your husband in your own room in her office. You can't have any plants. You can't do this. You can't do
Oh
that.
yeah,
Now
we
you can.
had that.
And
Yeah,
every week they have new rules. It's like, wait a minute, I trained my entire career to help people, and now you want me to not have enjoyment during the day, and then you get home and you're stressed.
yeah.
And so a lot of doctors are overworked, they're stressed, they don't have time to, and so then I see it coming out sideways on social media. For instance, they'll attack other doctors, because
Mm.
when you're not a happy person, you're more likely to attack other people. And like what you said, I was kind of smiling to myself when you were talking about Reiki and massage before you meet with people, because if I go get a massage, which I happen to be doing today, so I'm happy, and I'm like,
Enjoy.
no one will bother. But afterwards, you like nothing will bother you. I'm like, okay, say
No.
whatever you want, cut me off. I don't care. I'm not. But it's when you're in that stress state chronically. It's not that acute stress. We get stressed and then what deadlines sometimes, and we have things we have to take care of.
Which
But
is
when it's
good
that,
because that's, you manage it then, don't you?
then
Yeah.
you manage it, and then you can say, okay, but in 2 weeks I'll be on vacation. I won't have to worry about this ever. I'll be able to. But the other thing is having that job satisfaction of you being able to see families come to you broken, and then by your interventions, you can see them start laughing and enjoying each other's company, where it's not all work all the time.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. You know, when you see families like that, that they've it's also they have the confidence in themselves again because it's lots of families. I mean, I'm always saying this. You turn on the television and you see adverts of smiling, clean children and parents looking fresh-faced. That's not normal life, especially like when you wake up in the morning. We haven't got a full face of makeup straight away unless we sleep with it on. And you're struggling. You might have had a bad night's sleep, or the children might have been up, one of them poorly, so you've been up through the night. So it's all these things. So if you think, when you're looking at these things, this is what we should be like, and you're not like that, it really lowers your self-esteem. Same with the parenting books. There's so many written on parenting, how you parent, but they're just one person's opinion. They give you suggestions. Fine, try them out. Not all of them will work because you're individuals and your children are different and you've got different ages and, whatever's going on for them. But if you follow them like gospel and they don't work, you're beating yourself up. You feel an absolute failure because you're saying, well, this book was meant to have sorted it all out and it hasn't. So now I feel I'm a failed parent. And there's no such thing as a real positive family all the time or a perfect family. Parenting is not, you're learning all the time. I mean, until we become parents, we haven't got a clue what's going to go on until our babies pop out and they're there. And then you think, oh, this is a scenario I'm not familiar with. And you're learning all the time. And it's a 24/7 pressured job for the rest of your life, even when they're adults. My eldest is now 44.
Yeah, and they're all like, even with me, my mom is the same way. I'm 54 now, right? And so be careful, like near the campfire, don't fall in. It's like, Mom, I'll be able to, but it's like that inherent nature to protect your kids, right? And to make sure they're okay. And, my brother's 60, and my mom said, "Oh, I'm so worried about him because he was stressed at work the other day." I'm like, Mom, he's doing fine. He's well adjusted. So yeah, it is amazing. And I think, one thing I noticed, and one thing that I was very blessed and fortunate with my wife, is that we agreed we're not going to be split by our kids. But meaning, if Mom says no and the kids come to me, I would say, "Hey, what did
Yeah.
Mom say?" And if she said no, it's not going to say, "Oh, Mom said no, but
That's
okay, I'm going to overrule
vital.
it."
It's
Right?
it's team, it's teamwork all the time with your children. You have to agree. I mean, because you've been brought up from different families, you've had different upbringings, some might have been really more lenient than the other, so the other one might be too strict. But you've got to, when you have children, sit down and talk and say, right, how do we want to bring our children up? What do we expect? What rules are there for the family? And like you're saying, you have to support each other. Otherwise, children they'll play you off against one another. They'll go to the easiest, the softest parent. And then the other one will seem like, well, I feel like I'm the baddie now because I'm the one that's trying to pull it all in and tell you not to do this and not to do that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it is how that kid is going to feel loved, or your spouse or your friends. And so one thing that was valuable, I mean, it's kind of a funny memory for me now, but in med school, when I was really, really busy, stressed all the time, just rushing, I'd be in the hospital. Back then, you'd be in the hospital for 3 days at a time. And then when I would come home, I would just want to spend time with my wife, and she would be cooking and cleaning and doing all this. I'm like, can't we just sit and talk? Like, what? And she's thinking like she gave me a book. It was called The Five Love Languages. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book, but
No.
it really talks about how some people feel loved by acts of service or quality time, or just having a cup of tea and talking about life, or you building me something in the backyard, or doing the dishes. For my wife, it was, her love language was acts of service. So I say, hey, you know what, you sit down, let me do the dishes, and then we'll like spend time together. That was like meant way more to her than if I brought her flowers every day, for instance. She'll go, okay,
Yes.
what am I gonna do? They're just gonna die. And so for her, but other people, flowers are the biggest thing. You bring flowers and everything else gets better. So it's kind of figuring out like what makes
But
that person tick.
some people with flowers think, okay, why are you giving me flowers? What have you done? They get
Exactly right. Yeah,
suspicious.
exactly right.
So
Yeah,
you
it's out of
think,
character, and you go, okay, yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So you're kind
but
of
I
trying to
mean,
make up for
but the
saying bad stuff.
importance though is as you're I'm sure you'll vouch for it, self-care for everybody, individually. For adults, you must have self-care. Look after yourself first, meet your needs, meet your health needs. Have that space that gives you quality space to sort of unblock your fuzzy head and deep breathing. You start off maybe 15 minutes a day to an hour. And if you've got stress, if you've got emotional difficulties there, if you don't want to necessarily go to your GP, there are so many books and self-help tapes out there that can help you to get you started, and it's vital that you do that, and you find that quality time to do that every day. And once you're getting those needs met, you'll be able to have that quality time which you need to do with your children individually daily, and if you've got more than one, as a group as well. So, but you start with yourself as adults first to do that. And then everyone's benefiting. Everyone has quality time and you're getting to know each other. And then you have your boundaries, which are vital, and your routines. You don't have to have many boundaries, but again, you involve all the family when you're making those decisions. And then you think, okay, well, if they're working out, how can we reward each other? And they come up with simple things. Doesn't have to be like loads of money. It can be, like on Fridays, I'll have one of you choose a meal, your favorite meal, whether it's I cook it or we get a takeaway, and the other one, let's watch a movie together. That's, so doing things like that. And the other thing is, if there are consequences, you have to agree, and they must be manageable. You don't make a routine like a consequence like, I'm going to take your mobile phone away for a whole month, because no one's going to manage that. So it has to fit within that week.
Yeah, and it's important, if you do make the consequences, that you stick to those consequences and make them reasonable.
Stick through it. Yeah, you have to beat that. That's the other thing parents find. Consistency. Whatever you do, you have to be consistent on a daily basis with it. You can't just do it once and think, once I've done it once, that's going to work. No, you've got to follow it through, and you've got to keep on doing until they learn the routine, or they learn what's expected of them. And you're the one that's showing them the guidance. So you have to make sure, and children watch you. They'll watch everything, because we were talking a bit earlier about it. They watch everything that you do, and they pick up your mannerisms and what you're saying. And you see this little person suddenly repeating back how you are, and their arms are folded. You think, "Whoa!"
It is almost scary. My youngest is.
It is.
I look at her and say, "You're just like your mom. You take notes like she does. You do like it's incredible. Like very organized. Very like." She'll go, "Did you notice the temperature in the freezer was off a little bit?" I'm like, "What? Like who looks at that? Like detailed stuff, like and things." She'll write
Yeah.
notes and make sure everything's taken care of and hasn't organized. Everything is in its place. I'm like, wow, that's kind of, because that's not my nature. But having someone like that, and I'll tell you the other thing that I love about the teamwork part of it is I have two daughters, and my wife knows how women work and how my daughters work. So, we'd be in a discussion. I would be about to say something, and she would just look at me like, don't say it. Because if you say it, it's going to scar, it's going to cause a problem. But and then the other thing that I really appreciated, she would say, your youngest needs a date with you. Like, go to the movies, take her for a walk, go to the park, go do something with her,
Get
because
to
she's
know.
like, yeah. And it was amazing, because I go, they're not going to want to go hang out with dad. And then I would tell them, and they'd be up in the room getting dressed. They would put their makeup on and get all excited, and they would be excited all day about it. And it was so fun to be able to do that. And it
Because
was
it's a
really a
different
bonding time.
relationship you
Exactly.
have with your mum than you do with your dad, and you're her guide model for men. So you want to be the best you can possibly do to make sure that she knows what type of man she will hopefully have as a boyfriend, come as a partner in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that I see, and one of the big tragedies, and I'm sure you're going to agree, is that when you have broken families, you have a broken society. In that
Yes.
these young men are coming out and they don't know how to treat a female. They don't know how to show respect. They don't know how to look someone in the eye and give your word, and your word is your word. Those kind of things that we've lost as a culture, when we should have role models as parents to say, hey, here's how you model that behavior. And like you said, kids are watching all the time. So if they hear you on the phone lying to someone, or not being responsible at work, they say, well, that's just the way it is, or drinking too much, or whatever, or conflict, or
Yeah, and
disrespecting.
they think it's okay because they see their parent doing it and swearing and whatever. So you have to really make sure that you're the good role model. And the same with emotions. Children need to know it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to get upset, but it's how you express it. You don't feel angry and smack the wall and make a dent in the door or whatever. You know, you show them how I'm feeling angry. Oh, I think, you know what, I'm just going to go for a walk just to get get the steam off, as it were, or put some music on and just dance it out, or do a keep fit, or whatever it is. And the same with, I mean, I work with a lot of abuse women who'd been abused. They did groups, and the children were obviously being subjected. Some were being subjected to the abuse themselves, or they saw their mum, or they heard when they were in the bedroom things going on. And I kept on saying, you must be able to show your child that you're upset and cry, because if you don't say anything or you don't talk about it, the child wants to talk to you about things. But if you're shut off, and every time they say something you respond in a negative way, they'll keep that internalized. So you have to let them know, I'm feeling sad about what's happened, and let them, show how they can express their feelings and things. And it's vital, because that's part of the healing process.
And it's part of the work, like what you said boundaries at work. Say, look, I'm not working nights, I'm not working weekends. Here's what I'm willing to do. And if people in relationships set those same boundaries and be able to communicate, rather than just being mad for, like, okay, why are you upset? Like, unless we can communicate those things. And a lot of men are very stoic and they don't talk. Like, they'll go sit on the computer all night and not engage because it's too challenging, especially.
But then you've got women who go into sulks and they don't speak for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah,
so
you don't know what to do. It's like, okay,
and you
how
just
do I
think,
fix
as a
this?
man, what's going on here? And I mean, I remember years ago, and as a teen, because I grew up with a twin brother, and I was watching quite a few of the friends were boys, because we just had a lot of boys in the street, and so they came in, they adopted me as a sister to them, and they used to say, the thing is with you women and you girls, you can talk, and you've got the words, and you twist us up in the words you say, and we get angry and frustrated because we can't vocalize that emotion. So you sort of slap and shout, and they said, what can we do? And they were always asking me for advice, well, we like this girl, and what can we do, and things like that, and we don't know how to approach her. So it was quite handy. They were saying, oh, it's really handy, your brother having a sister, because we can pick your brains, as it were.
Yeah, you can understand, like, how am I supposed to approach this situation, right? And that's been the benefit of my wife, being able to understand, like, okay, here's how it affects her when you say that thing or whatever it is. So I think it's so important that we realize the power of our words, and also that connection, like you're saying, like, communication is the biggest key, that some people just don't communicate. Instead of saying, hey, I had a really hard day at work. I've had days like that where I go, look, today was nonstop. I just can't fix the computer right now. I can't go do others. I've given everything I got. Give me like 20 minutes just to breathe and relax. And then you can get back to life. But sometimes you just have one of those days where people, they're, like you said, the bosses bully them. They come home and then they bully their family because they're frustrated by it. They can't bully their boss back because
it's the nearest thing. Nearest one gets it, isn't it?
And it seems like that's how it is, and that people they love are the ones who take the brunt of their frustration in life.
And they don't, because they're so knotted up, they don't see that's how they're responding. If you were to video them and play it back, they go, oh my goodness, like, was I really like that? But we don't.
Yeah, and you'd be shocked to see how your tone you use, or how you react to certain situations, and being under this chronic stress. So how do you intervene with people when you see a family comes in, the husband's disconnected, the wife's not feeling loved, you got kids who are just doing their own thing. So how do you, when you step into this situation, what are you assessing, and what are things that you can say, okay, these are general principles that are going to help all families?
Right. Well, I literally just say to them, first of all, you have to look at how you're responding to one another first, and what's impacting on your responses to each other, and you've been with each other for a long while. So what are you going to do to change it? I give them like little bits of homework they do, they go off. And then I said, and now with your children, I've noticed that you're not consistent with putting in boundaries. So the children are thoroughly confused. So one minute you say, okay, do that. The next minute you're saying, no, I told you not to do that. And the kids are thinking, well, hold on, yesterday we could do it. Now you're saying we can't. This is all confusing to me. So I said, you have to, as I said, sit down, have a few simple boundaries put in, a few routines. If you want to get your evening to go, children to get to bed properly, have the homework done, the school bags packed, you have that all sorted so that they know in the morning everyone wakes up at such and such a time, and there's a routine that goes. But you work back from when they're traveling to school, and you go backwards, so you've got enough time for everybody to get up in the morning, use the bathroom if they're sharing it, get ready, have some breakfast, and then get off to the school and things like that. And it's vital. I'm always telling parents, it's vital, first of all, that you sit down with every child at a table for your meal, breakfast or whatever. And even if you say, some women say, oh, I don't want to have a breakfast, it's too early or whatever, say, well, sit down at the table anyway and have a drink, if that's all you're going to do. But you're sitting there, you're showing them what's expected of them. And it's really important to do that. And the other thing is play. We don't play enough with our kids when they're little. From babies, we teach the rattling sounds and the cooing and the language. You start from then, and you get on the floor, you get on their level, on the eye contact, and you keep on doing it. And imaginative play, kids love it. You see them, they just, through the eyes of a child, is a wonderful thing, because we're adults and we can't remember what we were like when we were their age, so you can enjoy it, and your grandchildren, and you're teaching them how to do everything, learn about the color, to do maths, to work out things, to express feelings, to laugh, depending on whatever you're doing. Board games as well. Turn off that TV, put those mobile phones on the side, do family actions, board games, acting out drama. Just really enjoy yourselves. Support your children to have after school activities, whether it's through the school or they're joining something else. Some kids like doing swimming, some like doing karate, whatever it is. Some do dance, gymnastics, some like to do running. So just really be part of your children's lives and appreciate that they are not mini adults. They're not your friends. You are mum and dad to them, and they're your kids. So you've got to really be there to learn about them individually, because they're all different, support their interests. It's very common for a parent to gel with a child that's similar to them and they leave the other one out. No, it's vital that you gel with the other children as well. And they will teach you so much. If you've got someone who's artistic and you weren't, then learn through them. Let them show you things. Let them introduce you to things. And hopefully you'll have hobbies. You'll do things on the weekend. You were talking about lovely walks and things. Get them out in the fresh air. Get them to experience their environment, learn about their environment, what's around them. And hopefully that will continue with teenagers. You'll have something you do together, as a dad or a mum or as a family, but you do things together. And it's vital for teenage boys to have a really good role model as a man. So again, do it. It doesn't matter if you're divorced or separated. If you can have that relationship, it just makes it so much easier to deal with all the struggles of all the hormones kicking in when you're young teenager and into adulthood. And hopefully you'll become a really well-rounded human being toward, at the end of it.
Yeah, I think in that investing in your kids and spending that time, I was thinking while we're talking, I was just having flashbacks to, all the tea parties I did with my youngest and my oldest too. And they would show, oh, look, what would you like for lunch? And it's all fake food that they're bringing you. And they're like saying, what do you like the best? But you learn a lot
Yeah.
about each other and just that engagement. And it's funny because even when we look back at old videos, they would do saying, oh, watch dad, watch, I'm going to do this. Mom, watch this, watch. And it's like, okay, great. You've done that 30 times and we've seen it a million times, but just that, oh yeah, this is great. And showing them that attention. I think so many of us are distracted. I've seen videos of that where a dad engages with the kid and they're playing and they're doing stuff, or he's looking at his cell phone while their kid's
Yeah,
talking to him,
not
right?
doing it.
And you see
Yeah.
the total different in the kid's persona, like, okay, that's more important than me right now. And so many of us give that message. We're out to dinner with our family and we're looking at I've seen it. We were just out, my wife and I, and this family, all five of them were on their phones the whole time looking at it. Like no one talked. It's like, wow,
No,
why'd you even go
no.
out? Like you didn't
And the
engage
thing
to
is,
see.
the thing is, you get young children, for example, who want you to engage with them. They come with a toy and you're on the phone. So they come again and they might hit you harder with a toy. And your response is, how dare you do that? You're being naughty. No, they're trying to get your attention.
Mhm.
But you get children, depending on what type of personality they are, that will withdraw into themselves. And then you'll say to people, oh, he's such a good boy. He plays on his own. He does things on his own. What he's doing is learning to self-soothe and self-comfort because you're not there doing it for him. And you forgot to sort of look at this all-rounded little being and say, what's going on for you here? Maybe the language isn't developing, or they're nervous because of these things. And then you've got the other one who's learned the only way I can get mum and dad's attention is if I'm rowdy and annoying and if I break things or hit my siblings. So they've learned that's the only way they get your attention. So they're getting negative response from you
But they're getting a
and
response.
continue doing, which is wrong.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then they get rewarded by your response
Yeah,
by doing bad
yeah,
stuff. And so people don't realize that. And it's funny at a young age, my kids would know, like you would see other kids at you're going to the checkout stands or they want a candy bar. And you say,
yeah,
not this time, no. And they would go, okay. But these other kids would
mm,
throw a tantrum and the parents would go,
yeah,
oh, honey, here you go, here you go. Calm
because they
down.
get
I'll give it to you.
embarrassed.
Yeah,
They're
they realize
embarrassed,
that
and
that
yeah,
negative, they get rewarded for
yeah,
being bad. So my kids laughed and they go, we knew if we threw a tantrum, like it was not going to happen for sure. We might have
no,
a chance if we're reasonable about it. So you start learning, those kind of things. And I think, the other thing that you had brought up that I think is really critical for parents to understand is like your kids are not youth also, meaning that
no,
if you were a big football player, the star athlete and your son likes art, encourage him in that. If he enjoys
yeah,
art and he has a talent, not saying my kid's not athletic, he's not doing what he should be doing. It's like, well, that's what he wants to do and that's what he's called to
mm,
do. And maybe in life, maybe he becomes the next great artist. But if you don't nurture that in the kids, right, these positive things that they're doing, that they feel there's no value in that. And so I have adults now that they're an artist and their family the whole time said you're supposed to be a doctor. I'm like, I don't want to be a
no.
doctor, you know.
I mean, I worked in a private school when I think it was 24. And what was really sad was it was they'd opened the school in the Second World War originally. She'd done it she was originally a nurse from South Africa. She had no training as a teacher, so God knows how she managed to do this. It opened up in a garage, this school, then money came through and they ended up buying 3 houses next to each other and then they made a hole in the wall. So, and it was all this private school. And these kids, they were coming age 4, sitting on hard benches. It was something like out of Oliver Twist. They had no toys to play with apart from on Fridays when she got her daughter's toys. Now, her daughter then was in her late 50s. They were these wooden blocks. You couldn't even see the colour, the paint had gone off them. And she had a shed outside for greyhounds. She raced greyhounds. And she used to say to the kids, go and feed such and such a greyhound. This kid would be walking them through with the best food that they had, like chicken or whatever. But what would the kids eat would be spam and tin stuff. And I just thought, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I had a friend at college and she came to me and she was just going to let her child come. And I said, do not take this child to this school because none of these parents, they were all working parents and they weren't paying any attention. They were leaving the child at 7:30 in the morning, collecting them at 6:30 at night. And some of these kids would just go straight to bed or maybe to a nanny. And all it was they had a business they were hoping to eventually pass on to the child. So they weren't getting any pleasure from their children. Their children didn't really get to know mum and dad. And the relationship struggle and things was horrendous, and it's going to really come back at them in some way or another when they were teenagers, and they
Yeah, and
couldn't see it.
that was a hard lesson I had to learn too. Working 18-hour days and being exhausted all the time, getting up early, staying up
Mm.
late, and you realize like those times that you want to spend with your family, it's like you're stuck somewhere else. And ultimately, when we get old, or even now, it's that we want to pass on some kind of a legacy or something that this is something I value a lot. Ben Bickman, who's one of the top guys in scientists in the U.S., he goes, look, guys, we have this meeting, but at 4 o'clock, I'm leaving. My son's softball game, I'm going to. Like, no matter what, we're like, so we're in the middle of a heated discussion, and he goes, okay, guys, we'll see you next time. I got to go. And
Yeah.
I go, wow, you respect that. That guy says my family comes first
And
before
that's how it should
and
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right.
Mm.
And so those kind of things, and so I had to reassess and say, okay, I'm going to do something different so I could spend more time with my wife and kids, because my house has always been my happiest place, but I was never there because I was always working. So the
Yeah.
joke was that my neighbors would tease me and say that I never had to wash my car because I left in the dark in the morning and I came back in the dark at night, so I never saw the light of day. So if my car was dirty, no one would notice it, right? So those kind of things, when you start realizing that your career can really take a toll on your personal life, and
And
it's
I think,
yeah.
sorry, and I think with COVID, people realised, because they were having to start home with families. I mean, it was bad for the ones who had domestic abuse. It was hell. But
Yeah,
then
because
you
you're
had
trapped in
ones,
that situation.
yeah,
Yeah.
but then you had ones who who got on with their kids and really got to find the priority was a family. And they suddenly realised, up to that point, they might have been just wanting a new car each year. They want to move from one house. They do up a house, and then as soon as it's done, right, let's move on, sell it up and go somewhere else. So it was all materialistic. And all of a sudden they realized that wasn't what was important. It was family relationships with one another, extended family and your friends. That was the most important thing that got you through anything that COVID was offering, or, that's it. Your job, you can get a job, all right, if you want to work less hours. It might not be as well paid, but my God, the stress that would just be released from that.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge point. I think that's one of the reasons I did this podcast too, is saying, okay, what's life's best medicine really? Is it having the best house, the biggest cars, all this kind of stuff? And so many of us live our lives that way, and that you want to impress the neighbors, but your kids are sitting by themselves. Like you said, you're feeding the greyhounds the best food, and the kids are
Yeah.
sitting there with nothing. And so I think I've seen that, I've observed that a lot. And some of the most miserable people I know have been successful financially, but they have zero relationship with their kids. You see these, like you're saying, these kids that are just they're in schools just as babysitting to get them off your plate so you can go do your job and go work. And it's hard because so many of these kids don't have that connection. I see it with their parents.
Mm.
They'll have a better connection with their caregiver than they do with their parent.
Yes. And then the
Very,
parents
very
get
frequently.
jealous about that, and you think, well, it's not surprising that that's the way it is. But also, if you're working so hard, you're setting yourself up for terrible health problems and issues, not only mental health but physical health. You're going to burn yourself out, and you
Yeah,
probably
and like
wouldn't
you said,
last. I mean, we're meant to live longer, but you probably wouldn't last sort of 50. You're probably having heart attacks and things.
yeah, that's true. And I mean, we have data on these things. And I just gave a talk last night going through the data, and you think, wow, it's redundant because loneliness, sadness, anger, all these things shorten our lifespan and screw up all of
Yes.
our entire hormone system. And we take all these supplements and drugs. Yeah, for instance, the interesting one is oxytocin. So
Yes.
oxytocin is the feel good love chemical. You're in
Oh
love,
yeah.
oxytocin. You do Reiki, you do massage, you do different things. You're connecting with your family, you're connecting with your kids. All that helps all your hormone system like dramatically. So I read all these studies on oxytocin that helps prevent osteoporosis, cardiac disease. I mean, you name it, it benefits you. And at the end of the studies, they say, well, if only pharma could come up with a way to increase oxytocin levels with a pill. It's like, just go enjoy your life. Go and look at the stream
Yeah,
and sit there and shut
exactly.
your brain down for 5 minutes. And for so many people, taking 15 minutes for themselves, and I know for me, for a lot of years, 15 minutes for myself was like a huge luxury, because you go, if I sit there for 15 minutes, I'm going to spend half an hour trying to catch up on all the phone calls I got to do at the end
Yeah,
of the
but
day.
you think though of how much time we spend on our phones, how much time we spend watching the TV, and we're watching junk half the time on the TV now. So don't watch it. Do something more rewarding for yourself.
Yeah, that's probably the take home message is like, yeah, turn the TV off if it stresses you out.
Yeah.
If you get, I know people that watch the news 24/7 and they're stressed 24/7
Oh.
about what's going to happen in another country. It's like,
And they're
just
not
go
going to
enjoy the
change it.
sunset.
They're not going to change the events, are they?
Yeah, you're not going to change it. You can worry all you want about these things unless you're an activist and you're going to go out and do something about it. There was a quote I used last night from Mark Twain. He was basically saying, look, we sit around and we worry about all these things. He said, either take action and intervene on it or don't worry about it. He said, all the catastrophes of my life never happened. Like there were all things that I worried would happen, but they never did. And I wasted
Yeah,
all my energy on that.
just concentrate on what you can manage and what you can change in yourself. That's all you need to do.
And I think that's
And
the
you know,
point. And what you're doing, the family dynamics that come up. I see it all the time where people say, "You just don't know I'm a jerk." Yeah, you don't know my wife. You know what she did? She did this, this, and this, and this, and she's doing this with the
yeah,
kids. And this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm eating too much because she makes these terrible dinners for me. That type of thing. Or the wife will say the same thing about the husband. And I think it's just sends such a message that, a lot of times you go, oh, maybe she's reacting that way because I'm a jerk. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And
And
then
so
you've got to say, well, you must have been attracted originally when you first met. What was it? What
mm,
was there? And what is still there? What's been become hidden over the years because of the negative things you're doing to each other? You
that
know,
is
and
such a huge thing. You go back and say, why did you,
yeah,
if they're such a jerk, why did you pick them? Do you
yeah,
have bad judgment? No, he didn't used to be like that. Okay, what was he like before? And like, how
yeah,
come we can't get back to that? Right? What what
yeah,
what do we do that he doesn't bring you flowers anymore? Whatever it is, And so some of those things, just expressing and
yeah.
I've seen it so many times. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine, he said, yeah, I'm getting divorced. I'm done with my wife. We don't get along. He was telling me about all the bad stuff about her. And I said, have you
Mhm.
ever been nice back to her, even when she's mean to you, and just see what happens? And so a couple of us kind of counseled him and go, when you get up and we watch you get up and get your coffee. You don't say, honey, would you like a cup of coffee? I'm getting coffee. I'm
Yeah.
going to be there. Or I'm going to be at the store. Can I pick you up something like that? So he started doing that. He goes, this is the craziest thing. She's so nice to me now. And I'm almost nervous because she's going out of her way to be nice. But when he was nice to her, she was nice back. Just like anything, people will say,
Yeah.
some people, patients will, like my nice patients, I'll say, how was you were in the hospital? You broke your leg. What happened? And they go, oh my gosh, everyone was so nice in the hospital. Everyone was fantastic. And, they were so helpful and kind. And then this person who's not very friendly says, "Oh, everyone in the hospital was so mean to me and they treated me terrible." And it's so funny because it seems to be those people.
It's what you give, isn't it?
It's
What
what
you
you
give
give
out.
is what you get back, and people will complain about everyone else and say, "Well, are you being nice to the people that are caring for you and appreciative?"
Yeah.
Because the people who naturally are like that, people feel like they're rewarded in life when you're helping a family and they're thankful for what you've done in their lives. You go, "Man, there's nothing better." That's why you went into your career path, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's vital you treat each day as a parent, each day like a brand new one, so that you don't wake up, because that's again with your body language. 90% is without verbal, it's your body language that says it. And if the children are watching you, they'll see you wake up and you might be thinking, oh God, am I going to get the same rubbish as I got last night? So you don't have to open your mouth. They can see that
Mhm.
your expression on your face, the way you look at them. And then if you've got a tone that comes out, they'll think, well, I might as well not bother. She obviously thinks we're going to mess up again, so I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. I won't
Mhm.
listen. So it's a vicious circle. So you really have to be mindful of everything you show to your children, your body language, your tone of voice, your lack of eye contact, your eye contact, and it doesn't take much to look at something each day that your child has done and saying, I really appreciate that um really appreciate that you've tried hard.
Yeah. Or I
And
noticed you took the garbage out. Oh, I noticed you were nice to that kid. Or what a
yeah,
great picture you did. It takes
I
a
can't get to the
second.
phone at the moment.
yeah.
I'll call you back. Please let me know who's called.
Sorry,
Thank you.
They're after you.
I've got to get rid of this.
Hi, Kathy. It's Annie. Thank you so much for those lovely flowers you sent me. They're gorgeous. They really
I
are.
can't get rid of it. Yeah.
And
Yeah, so
so,
it's
yeah.
vital that you do the praise and you don't criticize, you don't belittle your children, especially your teenagers. Don't run them down and engage them. If they come back from work, from school, and you notice they're throwing their bag and they're a bit grumpy and they go upstairs, you can leave them. They'll come down. They'll probably come down to get something to eat, and you say, you seem a bit, like you've had a bit of a hard day. If you feel like talking to me, I'm here for you. Just leave it. That's all you say. I'm here for you.
Hmm.
I care. That's it. So you're not nagging them. It's like when you ask them questions, you don't ask them and order them. You ask their opinion. Say if they're on a game or something. Do you know how much longer you're going to be on this game, and this level? Because I'd like you to help me out with something or do something. And that's what you do. It's common courtesy, and you're showing them respect, and they'll show you respect back. But if they don't feel you're respecting them and you care about them, why should they feel the same about you?
Yeah, one of the silly things my wife instigated was encouragement time. So we'd be sitting in the jacuzzi and we go, okay, let's take 5 minutes and just encourage each other. So, she would say something nice about me, and I would say something nice about my one daughter, and she would say something like, so everyone kind of say, I noticed this week you did this, or this is great. You helped the neighbor with something, or, thank you, Dad, for, that you worked late that night to, and stopped on the store on the way home, whatever it is. So you realize, like, wow, people notice. And sometimes we just don't say it. So kids especially, at some point they go, well, no one even notices I'm doing all these good things, so why am I even doing it? So sometimes just encouraging them.
And tell them they mean so much to you, and you love them, and they're the most important things. Because you should say that every day, because you don't know what's happening when you go out that front door and you shut it. You don't know what's going to happen on that day.
Exactly right. That's
never go out after an argument, never slam doors and go out, and never go to bed on an argument. That's the old saying, because it's true.
Yeah, it's so true, because you never know. Like, any one of us, there's a car accident or a plane crashes or whatever happens. And so, never leave it unsaid that you love someone, and you care about them, and you're supporting them, and you're proud of them. I mean, that goes so far. I mean, I have patients I take care of now, they're in their 60s and 70s, and they're still struggling because their mom and dad never gave them a hug or loved them. As a matter of fact, there was a study from the UK and from Nazi Germany, and they found that when people, like, they took the kids away from the families, and they go, okay, we're getting bombed in London, we're getting bombed in Berlin.
That's right. Yeah, they were sent to the country and things.
Sent to the country, and they turned into total disasters, because even though the kids survived it, they had their mom and dad support with them and love, and they knew they were protected, right? And it was different than being on the country, even though they weren't getting bombed, and they were abused, and they didn't have family connections and all that kind of stuff, and worried about their family the whole time. So drug abuse and alcohol abuse, it's just amazing how much of an impact we have, and how important it is, and how many people. And I've always said this, is like, I'd rather invest in my kids right now than invest in counseling for the next 30 years for them, right?
Because right. And you can't get it back. Once that stage is gone and they go into another stage, well, you missed that bit,
Yeah. So I love the work you're doing. I think it's so amazing. And this hour went by so fast, because, it's so important. I hope this impresses on people. I think if you're not happy at home, you're not going to be happy at work, and you're not going to be happy doing other things. And then, like you said from the beginning, setting boundaries, saying, look, here's what I'm willing to work. Here's what I'm not going to do. Here's what I'm going to do for my family. If my kid has a soccer game, I'm going to be at the soccer game, right? Even if I hate soccer, I'll be at the game, because I want to be there, and the kids will look. The first thing they look is mom and dad here. I know as
because
a kid
they're building memories, aren't they? They're building positive lifetime memories that they'll have and they can look back on and know you care, rather than building memories which are negative, horrible, abusive arguments. You don't want them to have that. You want the good memories to come through, to shine through.
And that's so important, right? That's so important to have those memories of going camping together, going to doing little crazy things. And I think just those things, we look back and we still talk about those little things.
And you laugh, don't you? When
silly,
you've been flooded out, the tents collapse or something.
Yeah, exactly. Those kind of experiences. But no one's going to say, hey, remember we watch that TV show every night? No one remembers that. You don't even remember what the show was. But so many families, they get home, they turn the TV on, they sit there for 3 hours, go to bed. There's no engagement, no talking. And so I think that's a huge thing. It's like, if you could just turn the TV off for 2 hours, not watch every single football game.
What they're watching, lots of it is fake news, and the kids lapping it up. They never challenge. Even the parents get involved with it, and they don't actually say to the kids, why do you like this show so much? Do you think these people, everyone dresses like that, everyone lives like that? I mean, my daughter was convinced, she was watching Friends years ago, and she was convinced that all the houses in the States, she wanted to go and live in America because she was convinced all the houses were movie star houses. Everyone had a movie star house. No, only the rich do, Jem. She said, no, they do. So I had a friend who was a teacher in her school. I said, and she was from Colorado. I said, can you show her? Have you got any pictures of your house? She said, yeah. So she showed Gemma these pictures, and her house was like corrugated iron on the thing. And she showed Gemma the street, which was about 6 or 7 houses looking the same. Gemma's looking, she said, that's not a house. That's a shed. And she said, no, that's the house. That's my house. Look, I've got pictures of it inside. And it was nice inside, but it wasn't like movie star. And she went, I said, all the houses are like that. You don't, unless you're very, very, very rich, you have these type of houses. And she went, well, I'm not going to go and live in the States then if I can't get a house like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like you think everything is
That's
easy and everyone's
it
yeah,
was so funny, this belief
but
that,
that's it, like these movies you see, like you're saying, like everyone's in love all the
yeah,
time. They wake up and everyone's happy. There's never conflict. The kids are fantastic. And, so these people want this kind of existence. And the reality is like, be yourself, if people are
and
going
all
to love
this,
you, because of the
yeah,
car you drive or what kind of house you have, like those aren't going to be your best friends when
yeah,
everything goes south. Like COVID taught us that, right? When you can't really drive your fancy car, you can't go do these things.
yeah,
You're gonna really have to have a relationship with people. And I think you're right that a lot of people change, and a lot of people are now saying, I'm gonna work from home so I can spend more time
yeah,
with my kids, and I
much
can,
nicer, less
yeah, yeah.
traveling, isn't it? All the hours you spend traveling, it's crazy.
Yeah, and stuck in traffic and stressed out, and want to be home. And I know I'd lived that life for a lot of years, so I'm glad not to be in that lifestyle anymore. So now I have to ask you a couple things. One is, what's life's best medicine for you? What gets you motivated? Where do you go to when things are hard? Where do you find your peace, and what motivates you to keep moving forward to help people?
I'm very chilled, very, very chilled. And I think that's just down to my personality and also down to my Reiki, which I've been doing for years. And I go for walks at least twice a week, long walks with a friend. I keep fit, do exercise. So I do water aerobics. Hadn't done that for a while. So I've gone back to water aerobics, which I'm doing tonight. And that's great fun. And I think there's about 26 of us there, and I do Zumba as well.
Oh, great.
And
So there's that community. You're getting together with
yes,
people and
community
laughing
of
and
people
yeah, getting
go in
healthy
the wrong
together.
direction when I'm going left, someone else is going right. So it's just fun. And
Oh,
I've
that's
got
great.
cats, 2 pets, and 2 birds. And I'm just happy. I'm happy with my life. I've got family life. I'm a nana of 2 now. My
Wow.
boys have given me a 7-year-old, and I've got a 6-month-old now. So it's just a pleasure, really. And I'm lucky. I've got I like where I live. I mean, it's not a big house, but I've been here for 42 years. I know the neighbours. My son keeps on saying, you should move now, Mum, you should move. And I said, well, what am I moving for? I'm quite happy at the moment, unless something picks me up and says, you've got to move there.
Yeah, when you
I can
love your
get
neighbors
anywhere
and
I
you love where
want.
you're at and
Yeah,
it's safe and you're happy, there's no
yeah.
need. There's no need. Like that's what you really need.
And I was saying I can spend that money on a holiday that I put on into a mortgage. I don't have a mortgage, so it's great.
Yeah, that's really great. Very few people are in that situation. So people you're in the UK, so people want to track you down, use your services, use you to help their families. How do they track you down?
Right, it's my website's probably the best one. It's life-change-coaching.co.uk. And when you go there, you can click on a free exploratory session with me for 30 minutes on Zoom. So you can just tell me what's going on for you, what you're stuck with. We'll chat about it. I can tell you a little bit my the coaching packages, and let's see if it works for you.
That's great. I think that's important to connect with people and to know your personalities and make sure it's a good fit because I hear that a lot where people are seeing a counselor or a coach and they go, we just don't connect. So okay,
No,
then get someone that you connect with that's helping you, that you're seeing benefit. And like you said, you could buy any of these books and people say, well, keto diet's the only way, or this diet's the only way, or you have to do this. And so it's hard when you go, I tried that, it doesn't work for me, and you feel like a failure. Like you said, it's like, okay, take little pieces of this out. Maybe just cut out the processed food, see how you do, and not drink soda every night. Maybe do a little more exercise. So it's these things of fitting what fits in your lifestyle and your life, and saying, okay, where can I make those changes? But I think the important thing, I think we're agreeing on, is that people have to be willing to make those changes. You can't just say my
Yes,
life's terrible, but I'm not
it's
going to
your
do anything.
life. You're in the driving seat of your life, and you should allow no one else to drive your life. You should do it yourself.
I have no better words than that. And I think, hey, everyone listening, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Listen to this. This is what it's really about. Make those boundaries. Let people know you love them. Take the time. Yeah, there's nothing more valuable. When we're sick, we get diagnosed with cancer. Time is our most valuable asset in relationships.
Yeah.
So these are things in life we can just start focusing on now, especially if you're a young person listening now. It's like, okay, spend time with the kids. You're never going to regret the time you spend with family. No one's on their deathbed saying, gosh, I wish I would have worked more hours. I wish I had another car. Right. You go,
But
remember those
also
times.
respect yourself, value yourself, and
Yeah,
nurture
and take those
yourself.
15 minutes here and there and do your
Yeah,
thing and go for a walk, get
definitely.
in the countryside and
Mhm.
you know, enjoy your little place that you're at and enjoy life and count your blessings. I think that's a huge thing in life a lot of people forget. And there's a lot of health benefits to that. So this is not just hocus pocus stuff. This is, you know, being in a stressful relationship and stressful work, and you need to escape from the stress somewhere. So that's become so apparent in my you know, in my career and my, you know, seeing where people are struggling. So thanks again for joining us. And Kathy, thanks so much. I greatly appreciate
Thank you,
your
Brian.
wisdom.
I've appreciated. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. You know, have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.